Welcome back to another episode of UFC Casuals. I'm Bobby, along with my co-host Andrew, and today we are bringing a different format to the channel. Instead of just popping up for every pay-per-view and doing it on, a Friday or Saturday, and then the following days after the pay-per-view happens, we're going to be doing weekly episodes. Every Wednesday, we're going to drop an episode. This week, obviously, we'll be talking a lot about UFC 291. There's a lot more to talk about. There's some UFC 294 announcements. UFC Nationals coming up in a week and a half from now. And then there's more, just the future of lightweight. A lot for us to talk about on this episode. So without further ado, we'll dive right in. We'll look at UFC 291, and we'll kick it off with the main event. Not many pay-per-views you see don't have a title fight. And, the ones that don't, like last year, the Ferguson-Diaz one, obviously there was some shuffling around of the fights. That card sucked. But this one doesn't have a title fight, and it is still lights out. I mean, it's incredible. I'm pumped for it. And yeah, I guess you do have a title on the line if you count the BMF belt. But in all seriousness, there's no titles on the line. But this pay-per-view is still loaded. I'll let you kick us off with this, main event: Poirier versus Gaethje, long-awaited rematch.
Yeah, I mean, not very often when you get a non-title pay-per-view and it's still this good. I mean, it's number one contender fights. It's top 5 fights, pretty much across the card, right? Especially in the main and co-main, big fights. Maybe not for the title picture in the main event. I don't know if either of these guys are getting a title shot off this fight. Probably not, but it's still an amazing fight. I mean, if there was ever a reason to bring back the BMF title, it's probably for these two guys because, I mean, Justin Gaethje, the man's never had a boring fight. Like, he just hasn't. It's just war after war after war. Like, if he's not going out, then his opponent probably is. And if neither of them are going out, then it's going to be a trip to the hospital. Yeah. I sent you a quote earlier from Dustin Poirier saying, if this goes 5 rounds, we're going to be talking about it in the hospital because we're going to be brutalized. I mean, these guys are warriors. They're BMFs, so it makes sense. It's not a real title. It's a fake title. They're bringing it back because never of these guys are going to be lightweight. And neither of these guys are going to be lightweight champ anytime soon. But fuck it, it's fun.
Have some fun with this fight. Yeah, and as you mentioned, all of Gaethje's fights are wars, and Poirier, he puts on great shows in all of his fights. But I don't think this is going to be as much of a brawl as the last fight. I think Gaethje's, he's improved a lot with being more technical and patient since, his last fight against Poirier. He'd just go in there and kind of throw. Now, as you saw in the Fiziev fight, I mean, he looked a lot more poised. He looked a lot more patient. So this is a different Gaethje than what we saw before. And I'm really excited to see how far along he's come and if he's able to beat Poirier this time around.
Yeah, I don't know if we had the channel started during Gaethje's last. Yeah, we probably did. And I think I picked Fiziev in that fight, in Gaethje's last fight, because I just thought we were going to see the wild Gaethje that we always get. He was going to fling in, be dumb. And Fiziev, who's a great counter puncher, right? He's a great defensive striker, was going to pick him apart. And Gaethje fought calm, composed. I mean, it was a new Justin Gaethje. And if we get that, Justin Gaethje, he has, he's maybe one of the most talented fighters at lightweight. I mean, the wrestling maybe isn't there, or the ground game. Like, it would be tough for him to beat an Islam or a Charles. Like we saw, I mean, Khabib has dominated him, Charles has dominated him. But he's easily one of the most talented. He's top 5, no doubt. And if we get a calm, composed Justin Gaethje, that Poirier fight was 5 years ago. That was a very different fighter. I think he has a much better chance this weekend.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think this is – I mean, last fight was close. I think this fight's going to be closer. I have a different outcome. I have Gaethje winning this time around. I think he gets it done late. I have a round 4 TKO for him. I don't think he's going to flatline Poirier, but I think he's going to wear down on him. I love what I saw from him against Fiziev. I think we'll see something like that. I think he's a lot smarter than he was in his first fight. I think he's going to get it done this time around.
When I watch Justin Gaethje, to me, he is Dustin Poirier with more power, but also dumb. But then in his last fight, like you said, dumb. He wasn't dumb.
Yeah,
and he went out there and beat a worthy contender. I mean, Fiziev was mowing through RDA and all these vets, and I thought the same was going to happen to Gaethje because he just fights so dumb. But if he has IQ in this fight, he, to me, is more talented and more powerful than Justin Gaethje. I like the KO prediction, TKO. I think he gets it done earlier. I think he maybe TKOs him in round 3. Because he's going to be patient. I don't think it's going to be like I hope he's patient if he's going to win. If we get dumb Gaethje, he loses quick. But IQ Gaethje TKOs Dustin Poirier and gets a huge win for his career.
Yeah, I think if we see dumb Gaethje, I think we see Poirier pick up a win like he had against Chandler. I think we'll see Poirier get another win like he did against Michael Chandler. However, if we see smart Gaethje, I think Gaethje wins in the same fashion he beat Fiziev in, except if Fiziev was a 5-rounder. I think if that was a 5-rounder, he would have put Fiziev out of there in round 4. So that's why I make that prediction, actually. It just, like you said, it depends on which version of Gaethje we get. If he fights smart, if he fights like he did in his last fight, I think he goes out there and wins. Something to look out for. Do you think either of these guys could retire if they lose this fight?
I think Gaethje's kind of hinted at, this is my title run right here. Like, this is my last chance. He is in so many bloodbaths that, he's wearing down. He knows he probably doesn't have a lot of time left. I think more so him taking a loss here would probably be the end rather than Dustin. I think Dustin is so durable that, if it's like a close fight again and he like barely loses a decision or something, he'd be more likely to come back. Maybe if he gets sparked, he would retire. I don't know. Just because he's made plenty of money, right? That's not an issue in the McGregor fights for sure. So, maybe that would be the case, Dustin, because of the Conor fights, getting his money. If he lost, he would maybe be done. But, I could see it.
Yeah. Well, look, either way, this should be a war. And speaking of wars, this card is just full of them. I mean, there isn't a title fight in this, but this is just the matchmaking is incredible. I love it. It's set up to be 5 incredible fights. I'm so thrilled. I can't talk enough about it. So we'll move on to the co-main event. With that being said, Blachowicz versus Pereira. For a while, or for a few days maybe, after Jamal Hill announced that he was vacating the belt, we thought that maybe there was a chance this fight would be for the vacant light heavyweight belt. That's not going to happen. However, the winner of this fight will fight Yuri. That's pretty much certain at this point that he will fight Yuri for the belt later this year, I imagine. What do you make of this fight?
Yeah, I never really saw making it 5 rounds just because I'm sure, it was so close to 5-way. They're probably so prepared for just 3 rounds. Yeah. It didn't make sense to switch it to a 5-round and, like panic.
With Salt Lake City elevation too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a huge factor in all these fights. I mean, we saw that earlier this year. Or was that last year? I don't remember. But, it was last year. But, I mean, look how gassed Leon Edwards was in that title fight. And then he came back and won most of the rounds against Usman when they weren't at elevation like that. I mean, it makes a difference. Yeah, it clearly does. And so I think it would have been a bad idea to flip it from a 3-round to a 5-round on a week's notice. Mm-hmm. And I also think Yuri just deserves the title shot once he's back because he never lost the title, right? So to me, that just made sense. But that doesn't, 3 rounds or 5, that doesn't change how good I think this fight's going to be.
Yeah, this one's going to be incredible. Blachowicz has great stand-up. We know that. I think he's a former Muay Thai champion. I mean, he has good stand-up, but I think his wrestling gives him a big edge in this fight. But Pereira, man, his power is unreal, and especially without that weight cut, he's going to be even more powerful. Man, his kickboxing incredible. Both the kicking from these guys is incredible. Blachowicz, his leg kicks fucked up Magomed Ankalaev in their last fight. And then Pereira, we obviously know, glory kickboxing champion. This fight's going to be amazing.
Those leg kicks were the only reason Jan was even still in that fight. I mean.
And the only reason it ended up as a draw and not a loss for him.
Exactly. So we're going to hear some baseball bats to the legs. So, I mean, it's going to be it's going to be hard to watch, I think, at times. The amount they're going to dig into each other's calves, Mm-hmm. I mean, that low calf kick from Alex Pereira is money. I mean, he was in both the Izzy fights. It was really doing some damage, especially the first fight. You saw Izzy, collapse and get TKO'd. Yeah. Second fight, they were there. Obviously it was only 2 rounds, so you didn't get to see it take as much effect. But they were landing, and that is one of his best strikes, along with the left hook. I don't know if Jan's gonna want to stand for 3 rounds. I don't know.
He said he wanted to test his striking against Pereira. don't know how much he means that. I don't think he'd be wise to follow through with that either. He has such a big advantage in this fight in wrestling. And you saw how Blachowicz looked when Izzy came up and tried for the light heavyweight belt, and how big of an advantage his wrestling gave him against Izzy. I could see a similar thing play out here with Pereira. For Blachowicz, this isn't the fight you want to test your ability to stand and strike with. You want to get out of here with a win, because he knows if he wins, he gets that title shot again.
Yeah, and him and Yuri's a fun fight. Either match. Any Yuri fight's going to be good no matter who he fights.
Yeah,
but,
it'll be exciting.
I think it'd be really cool to get Yuri and Jan, because they'd probably do it in Europe or something. That'd be amazing. Mm-hmm. I think they talked about, when Jan was champ, before Yuri even became champ, that was what Jan wanted when Yuri was rising the ranks, do a fight in the Czech Republic or in Poland. That'd be amazing. Yeah. So that's a fun matchup. If he can wrestle him like I think he needs to in this fight and get the win, it'd be the smartest thing.
Yeah, that's my prediction. I have Jan by decision. I think his wrestling will give him a huge edge. I think Pereira has an advantage in the striking, but Blachowicz isn't to be overlooked in the striking category. Like you said, like I've talked about during this entire preview, Blachowicz's leg kicks are nasty, and Pereira's are too. So that's going to be fun to watch them trade leg kicks. But I think Jan, with his advantage in the wrestling, and Pereira's not so good takedown defense, I think that gives Jan the decision win.
Yeah, I mentioned how good the Jan and Yuri fight would be. Pereira and Yuri would just be.
That'd be fireworks, man.
Because Yuri is so dumb, he wouldn't want to wrestle at all.
Nah.
He would test his chin, and he doesn't hold his hands up.
Mm-mm.
So we could see some Sean Strickland level stuff if him and Yuri fight. I think if it's Pereira and Yuri, we might be saying and nudes to Alex Pereira, 2 weight class champion.
Yeah, and Glory and the UFC, which would be, man, that'd make him one of the most accomplished fighters ever if he did that. That'd be incredible. Especially,
for him to go into MMA off of being a kickboxing legend. Mm-hmm. And, then again, he hasn't really fought anybody with the threat of wrestling. So that's why this fight Saturday is not looking great in our opinions, right? Mm-hmm. It is such an advantage for Jan in this fight that if he really, truly just wants to go get this win. Yeah. But then again, we've never seen Pereira grapple. So, he trains with Glover Teixeira, former champ. Black belt in jiu-jitsu, right? Glover. So, maybe he's taught him something. Maybe if he gets on his back, he can have some confidence. Who knows?
And Glover beat Jan. Jan. So, if there's anyone for Alex to be training with, that's the perfect person.
Yeah.
So that makes a lot of sense.
But for my prediction,
mm-hmm.
I want to see a striking match. It's not going to happen. Jan's too smart for that. He's proven in the past he actually has IQ, unlike a lot of these other 205ers. So. Or Sean Strickland at middleweight, right? So he's just smarter. So Jan's going to wrestle.
Strickland slander.
Maybe we'll get in another episode. We'll get into that Australia card, but I think Jan's too smart. He'll get him down. He'll probably win maybe all 3 rounds. Who knows? And we're gonna get Yuri versus Jan. I'm excited.
Either fight, whoever wins this fight, it's going to set up a banger of a fight for the light heavyweight belt. I'm looking forward to it either way. But yeah, I'm with you there. Moving on to the third fight on this card, we have Wonder Boy versus Michel Pereira. This will be a fun fight to watch. You have obviously Thompson with his karate background. You have Pereira with his capoeira. This will be fun. I'm looking forward to seeing how this plays out. And Thompson, he's getting older right now. He's 40, a lot older than I thought he was. I was reading about this fight, and I didn't realize he was 40 years old. So he's getting up there. I don't know if he has a title run in him, obviously, but still a fun fighter to watch. And then Pereira, we've all seen the videos of him doing backflips, jumping off the cage and stuff. This is just going to be a fun fight to watch.
Flying knees in the locker room before gassing himself out before he even gets to walk. He's a madman.
Yeah.
I don't even know how you describe his style other than just fun, really. You watch a Michel Pereira fight, you're having fun. So, and then Wonder Boy, you can the karate's just on point. Even at 40 years old in his last fight, I mean, he took it to Kevin Holland. And Kevin Holland is no slouch. I mean, he's knocking out all these, kind of, fringe top 15 welterweights himself. So, Wonder Boy's still proving that last fight he has it. And it's kind of a difference in striking. We kind of talked about the Gaethje, being dumb. Michel Pereira's dumb.
Yeah.
And Wonder Boy is the opposite of dumb. He is probably the smartest striker you're going to find in the UFC. I mean, his fight IQ is crazy, in the striking, of course. I don't think wrestling or jiu-jitsu will be a factor in this. I think Michel Pereira is going to want to go out there and put on a fun fight. And Stephen Thompson does not want to take this to the ground.
No.
So we're going to get a war, man. This whole card is wars.
Exactly. The matchmaking of this card was on point. It was incredible. Hats off to the guys.
And this was supposed to be on the prelims.
Yeah, this was originally a prelim fight.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for Costa and Aliskerov, then falling through.
The fight that was never going to happen, but
that was predictable. If anybody didn't see that happening, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, just take a scroll through Paulo Costa's Twitter, and you would have known very clearly that fight was never going to happen.
Dude, as soon as it got announced, he was like, "I didn't sign the contract."
Yeah.
It was never going to happen.
I'm not going to fight some unknown Russian at elevation.
Exactly.
He was hilarious. I mean, he was talking about how this fight was never going to happen. And
they kept it on the card. Like, Daniel was like, it's happening.
Yeah.
It was never happening.
It was never going to happen. So instead, we get this fight for the third fight on the card, which no complaints about. This one should be a banger. Yeah, I mean, and Pereira, he's on a 5-fight win streak. So look, I'm not. And he's in the sports books, he's not too big of an underdog. I think it's like plus 145 ish. So he's pretty close in terms of the odds making. I think Wonder Boy gets it done. Like you said, his fight IQ is so much greater than Pereira's. Regardless, this should be a fun fight. I got Thompson winning this one by a close decision, though. I could see Pereira picking up a round.
Yeah, and I completely understand why it's Pereira. The odds are close because Pereira is such a freak athlete. I mean, he's like 6'3" welterweight. It's a tough matchup for Steven, no doubt. But like I said, he's gonna manage the distance. Like, Pereira is gonna have no idea what's happening in there at times in this fight because Wonder Boy is such a mastermind. He's called Wonder Boy for a reason because he's the truth. He is the best karate fighter in probably MMA history. Like, converting to MMA, he's had the best career off of being a karate guy. And I think he continues. He's too smart. He's not going to go in there and do something stupid and get spark KO'd because it just hasn't happened before other than, Pettis sleeping with it. But that was 4 or 5 years ago too. So he doesn't get KO'd very often, and he's too smart. I think he gets a decision victory.
I'm with you there. So the second fight on this card, Tony Ferguson versus Bobby Green. Yeah, not sure why, but and I hate to say it, Tony, he's washed. It's as simple as it gets. That isn't too shocking to say. I don't think there'll be many people disagreeing. Bobby Green isn't particularly good himself, so I don't see why this is a main card fight or even the second fight on the main card. But I'm interested to see how this one plays out. Bobby Green's a pretty heavy favorite in this one. What do you make of this fight?
You want to know why this is on the main card? Because it's Tony time, baby.
Okay.
I don't want any Tony Ferguson slander. Listen, let's just be real. The Gaethje fight took years off his life.
Yes, and the Michael Chandler kick probably took a decade off his life.
However, he's still the He's still the wild man, Tony Ferguson. It's Tony time. We're going to see some Imanari rolls. We're going to see some sand being thrown on Bobby Green. We're going to get a fun, exciting Tony Ferguson fight because he's Tony shit. Because he's Tony Ferguson, man. All right? So I don't want any Tony Ferguson. That might be an indication of how I'm maybe talking out of my ass here. The gods have said I need to
that's
stop.
enough. That's enough, Andrew. Yeah, look, I'm with you. It's an exciting fight, and that's what this card is. It's full of exciting fights, so I guess you can justify that. I don't like his chances of winning, though. I don't like his chances of winning. Bobby Green's a good boxer. And, I mean,
he's just gotten he's gotten slower and sloppier as he's gotten older. Like, it just is what it is. Like you said,
I don't want to see him get slept. And I'm scared of that happening because if he does, at that point, you just got to force the guy into retirement. I mean, I don't want that to happen. I think that's what's going to happen, though. I think Bobby Green's going to catch him.
I don't know who his management team is or if he's just this stupid, but he came back way too fast after the Chandler KO. Like, It was like 4 months after getting front kicks, slept, and falling like
out for like 8 minutes or something ridiculous. I mean, this should. I don't know. I'm worried
about. He was
going
to come back and fight Li Jingliang, right? And then he got swapped for the Diaz fight, and then you get subbed by a 1 foot out of the door Nate Diaz.
Yeah. Nate Diaz was walking. He had his back turned, walking around half the fight. And he still got subbed by him. This isn't the same Tony Ferguson we're used to seeing. It could be an exciting fight still, and it'll be fun to watch Tony. But yeah, I just don't like his chances in this one.
Yeah, I'm going to predict Bobby Green by decision. I think he does maybe get slept, but I don't want to see it, so I'm going to say decision.
Yeah, I have Ferguson's chin holding up for about 2.5 rounds. I got a round 3 knockout for Bobby Green.
Okay.
As sad as it is to say, it's no longer Tony time.
Whatever.
Gotta just accept it, man. Just gotta accept it.
I'm a Habib guy anyways. It doesn't matter.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So the first fight in this card, we got Michael Chiesa versus Kevin Holland. We got a grappler versus striker matchup here. Chiesa coming off back-to-back losses. 2 good opponents, though, Sean Brady and Vicente Luque. So I guess can't fault him too much for that. Holland off a win earlier this year to Ponzinibbio. What do you make of this one? I'm excited to see where your head's at for this one.
I mean, we've talked about in previous episodes how much of a gangster Kevin Holland is. Like, he's willing to fight any.
He's a BMF. He is
the
a
real
BMF. He's built for this card.
Let him fight the winner of Gaethje. But he's a gangster. He'll fight anybody, anytime, any place. You said Chiesa's lost to some good fighters. Are we sure Sean Brady's good? Like, he got TKO'd by Bilal Muhammad here.
Okay, that's fair.
So Chiesa's losing to some questionable. Sure, top 10 fighters.
He's lost to top 15 fighters.
Sure, right.
I'll say that. So maybe not for long, but top 15.
Right. So I like Kevin Holland here. I just do. He's more exciting. He has submissions if he were to get taken down. I think he got a sub a couple fights ago against Tim Means. That was a good sub for him. So he clearly trains his grappling, even though it doesn't look like it sometimes. Like against a Hamzat or Vittori a couple of years ago. Yeah. But I think Kevin Holland should win this fight. I think this is good. And it's good to see him get a ranked opponent because he deserves it. He's earned it for sure.
Absolutely. I'm with you on that. Holland's takedown defense, it isn't the best. However, I think his length, especially since this fight is at welterweight, so he's fighting smaller guys as opposed to when he fights at middleweight. I think his length will allow him to keep this on the feet for most of the fight, and he has a big advantage in that department against Chiesa. And for that, I have him getting a round 3 KO. Similarly to the Ponzinibbio fight, I don't think he's going to go out there and sleep him in 1 round, but I think he'll wear down on him. I think he'll keep it at his range where he wants it, and I think he'll eventually finish it in round 3.
Yeah, I think if he can keep this up, Chiesa's striking is really bad. Chiesa slander. We should probably stop slandering people, but
it didn't work out for us in the 290 coverage.
Yeah, don't go watch that. But I think Chiesa's striking is just worse. So if it stays on the feet, he'll pick him apart for probably 3 rounds. Maybe his chin holds up. I think Holland by beatdown, 3 rounds decision is what I'm going to go with.
Yeah. So there we go. There's UFC 291. There's all of our predictions for that. Moving on, we're going to look at UFC 294, the fights that were recently announced for that. Yeah. Islam and Charles, they're going to run it back in Abu Dhabi this time again. I don't see a path to victory for Charles here. I think Islam's just a better fighter. And I love Charles. But when I look at this fight, I think of how Max Holloway versus Volk played out. I think Charles, I think he's the second best lightweight in the world, and I think he's going to become a gatekeeper of that division just because he won't beat Islam. And I don't think he'll get past him. I don't think he'll get over that hump. Maybe Charles gets the belt back if Islam retires young, kind of like Khabib did. But I see Islam defending the belt here.
Yeah, the first fight was so lopsided after. I mean, really, in the first fight, it was the complete opposite. Nobody was giving Islam a chance, if I
Yeah.
remember. I mean,
Well, because nobody fought. Islam didn't have really much of a resume because nobody was fighting him. Nobody was taking that fight.
exactly. It's what happens to all these Dagestanis. People say they're garbage because they're fighting unranked people,
Yep.
and they're begging for top 10 opponents, and they're not getting them because none of them want to fight them. And then people say, "How are you like Umar?" I know that fight got canceled, but people were like, "How are we giving him a top 3 opponent when he hasn't even fought somebody ranked?" Because nobody ranked wants to fight the guy. They know they're going to lose. They know he's just one fight away from a title at all times, these guys, because they are just levels above a lot of these other, ranked people. It was the same with Islam. So nobody gave him a chance in the first fight. Nobody knew how good he was, unless you were, had a brain like yours truly. No, I'm kidding. But I'm just a Dagestani guy, so I'm always going to go for him. But where was I? So Islam is the heavy favorite in this, but Charles is him.
Yeah.
Charles is that guy. So I'm never going to count him out. I kind of saw, I don't know what I predicted in the Charles fight, but I thought Dariush had a good chance because he is kind of a similar fighter to Islam in a lot of ways. And, we can obviously look back and say Benil's not good, but, going into that fight, a similar style matchup, you could have said, hey, this is going to give Charles a lot of problems, and he passed it with flying colors. So who's to say he can't go out there and, Islam's proved to be chinny at times. He got dropped by a featherweight. So who's to say Charles can't knock him out?
Yeah, I mean, look, and Charles has good power too. Charles has good power. I mean, I think Gaethje said he praised Charles for how his power is, and Charles put Gaethje down in the first round. Obviously, if he didn't go for a sub like he did, which that's his game, so I can't fault him for it. If he would have jumped on top of him and started to go for the ground and pound, I think he would have finished him round 1 TKO. Charles' power is good. So it's possible that he catches Islam just like he caught Dariush. If this fight goes to the ground, though, I don't want to discount Charles on the ground either because his he one of the best submission artists of all time, if not the best in the UFC. So I don't want to discount him. I think Islam defends the belt, but I don't want to slander Charles here because also he's one of my favorite fighters.
There you go.
So,
yeah, I mean, he's the most exciting, most subs in UFC history. But to your point, Islam's top game is so good. In my mind, I can't see him slipping up and giving up like an arm or a triangle. Yeah. Like, I just don't see it. And he's so big for a lightweight. Like, he's jacked. So, I don't really see like Charles, reversing and getting on top and being able to control Islam either. So if it goes to the ground, I don't like Charles' chances. I think Islam's top game is too good. But if he can defend the takedowns and, just get through some of these rounds, wear Islam down. His cardio didn't look great in that Volk fight late there.
Yeah.
So if he can just make this, scrappy, clinching, land some big shots, make Islam kind of reconsider things, I think he could stop him. That's not what I'm going to predict, but, it could happen.
Fair enough. The current emphasis on current co-main event in this card, Paulo Costa versus Hamza Chimaev. I will believe this fight's happening when I see the second of the two men walk out into the octagon. Until then, I don't believe it's happening. I'm skeptical about it happening. Obviously, Costa's kind of a troll. Chimaev, he's missed weight. He's not going to miss middleweight, but I'll believe this fight's happening when I see it happening. Regardless, should be it's a good test for Chimaev moving up to middleweight. I don't think it's a fight that if he wins should get him a title shot necessarily, but I think it will. Costa, he currently has no wins over any active UFC fighters, so I don't want to. I'm hesitant to immediately give Chimaev a title shot at middleweight if he beats Costa, but still would be an impressive win regardless. I'm looking forward to this fight if it does happen.
I think it would maybe depend on if he could finish Costa, because Costa has proven to be one of the most durable middleweights. I mean, the only person that stopped him is Izzy. So, a really durable guy. So if Hamza was to do what he's done to so many others and just mow through Costa up a weight class, he's bulked up a lot for this move. I think there's no way we're ever seeing him go back down to welterweight, in my opinion. I just don't think it's going to happen. So this is his new weight class, and he's bulked up, and he's ready to go after Izzy. I mean, I think this would be an easier path to a title than having to go up and beating Usman would have been.
Yeah.
So I like his path to the title if he's as good as we think he can be, or as people are cracking him up to be. And I'm a Paulo Costa guy. I love me some Paulo Costa, but he struggled with Luke Rockhold in his last fight. Now I get it was in Utah, so that's why he's not fighting this weekend, because he does not want any part of that.
Not doing that again. No more Salt Lake City for Paulo.
No, never again.
Yeah.
That fight was embarrassing to watch at times. But I love Paulo, so I don't want to slander him too bad. I think he has a chance just because we don't know how this weight's going to translate for Hamzat. He's going to finally be fighting people his own size, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be interesting. But if Hamzat's as good as we think he is, I don't like Paulo's chances.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Then the final fight announced for this card, you got Nasruddin Imavov versus Ikram Aliskerov. Patting myself on the back for getting through those names. I like this fight more than the Paulo Costa fight for Aliskerov. Sorry, I think that was a big step up in competition, and Imavov's good, but I don't know. I think this fight makes a lot more sense. And who knows? Maybe we'll see a Aliskerov versus Chimaev rematch in the future. Chimaev himself said this was his toughest opponent, UFC included. So who knows?
There you go.
I don't think it was a tougher fight for him than Burns, but he can say what he would like to say. So yeah, that'll be a fun fight. And middleweight, I'm looking forward to that one.
Yeah, I like that they didn't rush Aliskerov into a fight with Costa. That would have been tough. I mean, to go from one UFC fight against
Bill Hawes.
Exactly. Bill Hawes.
Yeah, I mean,
so it's smart, because I think what they were trying to do when they booked that is because when they booked the Magomedov fight against Sean Strickland on that fight night a month or so ago, they were just trying to fast track these middleweight prospects, just see if they're good enough.
Yeah,
because they need contenders so badly.
Yeah,
they're trying.
The whole division.
Yeah, they were trying to fast track him, and I'm glad they're just like, all right, Magomedov got smoked. We do not want the same to happen to Aliskerov here, because I think there's a very good chance he could have gotten outclassed by Paulo Costa, and we'll never know now. We could in the future, who knows? But Imavov is a good second step. Sure, it's still a ranked opponent. Maybe he doesn't deserve it yet, but it's somebody I think he can probably beat. So why not?
Yeah, I would have probably had him taking a fight a little bit outside the top 15, somewhere in that 15 to 20 range. However, I do think this is, like you said, a winnable fight for him. The future of lightweight. This is something I've been waiting to talk about all episode. This is something that we planned out in the script. And obviously, this weekend will have big implications at lightweight. The 294 fight will have big implications at lightweight. Volk possibly coming up after he defends the belt against Topuria. You got some fights to make. This division has an exciting future. If Islam wins, I think that'll put Charles in that kind of gatekeeper role. I think you'll have to beat him to get that title shot. I see the parallels to Max in his situation and Charles. I see that playing out the same way. I think the BMF winner, although I think it'll be the same result as the Habib fights for either of these guys, whoever wins, I think it makes sense to give them a crack at Islam next. I also think that Volk rematch for his opportunity to be a double champ, I think that's deserved since how close that fight was. But yeah, there's a lot of future title fights to make, assuming Islam wins.
Yeah, and you mentioned it with the fight this weekend with the two guys, just how badly they've both lost to Habib, and then also Charles too. If Charles became champ again, would they really deserve a rematch with him? So they're kind of in a place of gatekeepers themselves. I mean, everybody's kind of in a gatekeeper spot. I agree with if Islam wins, they should maybe get a crack at him just because it's somebody they haven't seen yet. But I wouldn't see it going any differently. So
You just
I don't know about
keep running fights back forever. I mean, we know it's going to be the same result as the Habib fights, but you can't keep running back Volk versus Islam or Charles versus Islam forever. You're going to have to get some new fighters in there. And it is what sorry, I'm blanking. Poirier and Gaethje, they've stuck around in that top 5. They've stuck around in that top 5 since Khabib was champ. So you got to give them another crack, I think, even if it'll be the same outcome.
And I mean, they've even fallen down too. Like like we said earlier with the Gaethje preview, his last fight, Fiziev was on the rise. It's looking like, Gaethje's dumb. He can get, Fiziev could have got this win, and then we see a smart Gaethje. So, maybe I'm judging Gaethje based off his past self. Maybe he's a new fighter. He knows to go win a title, he's going to have to calm down and be smarter. So, sure. I think if Islam wins, whoever wins this Saturday should fight him just because it's new blood for Islam. But if Charles wins, I don't know if they deserve it yet.
Yeah. Speaking of new blood for this division, some fights to make, I think. You got to make Fiziev and Gamrot, and I already think that one's in the works. That's probably going to happen at some point later this year. It makes too much sense. Gamrot coming off his win against Jalen Turner, Fiziev coming off his loss against Gaethje. I think either one of these guys gets a win, and they get that top 5 fight. Either Fiziev gets another crack at it, or Gamrot gets his.
I could see a winner of that maybe getting a Chandler if the Honor fight falls through, right?
Yeah.
So Chandler's got to get back in there eventually, right? So that makes sense.
Fiziev versus Chandler would be fun to watch. I tell you that. That would be exciting. Another fight I think you got to make at lightweight. Dariush coming off a loss. I think Sarukian, that'd be a great fight. I think that's a perfect matchup. If Sarukian were to go out there and win, I think he'd be close to that lightweight title shot. So that would be some new blood. And I don't want to call Dariush a fraud for losing to Charles because Charles is great, but winnable fight for Sarukian. So a lot of moving parts at lightweight, but we could see some guys moving up the rankings, getting past those gatekeepers possibly, hopefully, and giving Islam some new blood, or Charles even.
Yeah, and Sarukian's kind of right on that edge right now. And mind you, he's fought Islam before and probably gave him his toughest test outside of Volk in the UFC, right? So I would like to see that ran back someday. I mean, we're years, they've both gotten better, so I'm sure it'd be just as good, probably more high-level wrestling than even it was back then. And it was some high-level wrestling back then when they first fought. So that'd be a fun fight to make down the line. I hope Sarukian keeps winning because he's a fun prospect. And he's young, too. We need – that's the thing about this division. There's so many people that have fought for the title before that they're kind of far off, I feel like, right now from getting it, really competing with Islam. So if we can get somebody like Sarukian back up at the top, get him to the top, new blood, that's what this division needs badly.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I hope Sarukian keeps winning. I hope that Fiziev Gamrot fight gives us, a top 5 fight for one of those guys or a Chandler fight. Either way, I want to see some new guys move up the ranks in lightweight, get that title shot because, like we said, I think Poirier Gaethje just goes the same way as the Khabib fights, unfortunately. So I'd like
you said, you can't run back to Islam, Charles, Islam.
Can't do it forever.
Can't do it forever.
They're running out.
Yeah.
So, and to cap off this episode, we're going to talk about UFC Nashville, which we will be in attendance for as Nashville area residents ourselves. Unfortunately, Umar Nurmagomedov not able to fight at UFC Nashville, but Rob Font stepping in. That should be a really fun fight. That should be an exciting fight. I would have rather seen Umar because we're talking about 2 guys who are potential future champions. 2, Sandhagen's on that verge. I think, obviously a win over Nurmagomedov would have definitely given him that title shot, but I still think him being here to take this fight, and I think if he beats Font, I think he still can just wait it out and get that title shot whenever the time comes. So Sandhagen's close. I would have liked to see Umar, but it is what it is. Font's still a fun fighter, coming off a great knockout win against Yanez. So I'm still excited for this fight.
Yeah, with a bad situation like that, with 2 weeks' notice, somebody pulling out, it's as good as they could have done. And it sucks that Umar got hurt, but so did Song Yadong, which was a fight, Song Yadong and Rob Font that was supposed to happen, on the next pay-per-view in August.
Yeah.
So it sucks that those 2 young prospects that could have gotten in the mix here, their fights fell out. But as a result, we get 2 vets, kind of, both desperately needing a win here to stay in the title picture, right? I mean, if Rob Font wins, he's never really been in that top contender picture. But with a win over Sandhagen, I mean, he would be right there. So
he would absolutely be right there. I'd argue that if Font beats Sandhagen, I think he's one win away from that title shot because he's coming off a spectacular win against Giannis. That round 1 knockout was beautiful. And if he goes out there and beats Sandhagen, who in his last fight against Cheeto, Sandhagen proved that he is a great fighter. If he can go out there and beat Sandhagen, I think he's one win away.
Yeah, and Bantamweight's really, kind of tricky right now because, what's going on with the champ. He's saying he's done after this. So we're looking at probably if Sean doesn't get a victory over him next month, then you're looking at, a vacant title. So who knows who would get a title shot for the vacant title in that case. I mean, probably you could lock in Merab for that for sure.
Yeah.
But, who would he fight? Sean just lost or Jan's coming off pretty low.
Maybe
the winner of this fight. Probably the winner of this fight.
Sandhagen versus Merab. If Sandhagen goes out there and wins, and even if Font wins, maybe they don't even wait for him to get that second win under his belt. Maybe they just give it straight up to him and give us Merab versus Font. Either way, we could be seeing the winner of this fight possibly step up to face Merab for that vacant belt, assuming Aljo moves up, which he said he plans to do if he wins, or regardless. So, and that's if Sean doesn't win. So, a lot of questions at bantamweight, and we will absolutely talk about that more in a future episode as we get closer to UFC 292. But for now, that wraps up our coverage of UFC 291 and many more topics. We'll be back next Wednesday. We'll be talking about UFC 291. We'll be talking about any new UFC news that breaks. Should be another good episode, and we're looking forward to it.
This was fun, guys.
Yes, sir. See ya.
See ya.